John 17, just moments before Jesus is arrested and eventually crucified, we find him praying. And he begins by praying for himself, but then he goes on to pray for his disciples, for the people who had been with him for the past several years. But he finishes the prayer by praying for all of the people who had come to place their faith in him. That's you, that's me, it's us. Something to think about. I mean, just moments before Jesus would experience something as excruciating as the cross, but who's he thinking about? He's thinking about us. And just as remarkable as that, though, is what Jesus prays for. In verse 21, Jesus prays that we would be one, just as he and the Father are one. And then in verse 23, he goes on to pray that we would be brought to complete unity. Now, when we hear that word unity, we tend to think of like this intellectual agreement, right? It's about everybody being on the same page, everybody getting along, everybody believing the same things. So as a result, we tend to think that this sort of unity is something that we can have from a distance. This isn't the kind of unity that Jesus has in mind. I mean, he desires for our unity to reflect what he has with the Father. It's his complete oneness. In fact, it's this oneness that will actually be a sort of conduit through which we experience God's love. See, the sort of unity that Jesus is praying for, it's not something that we can have from a distance, but it requires us to get up close and personal. I mean, it's the kind of unity that is a result of a common experience, of a shared life. Then Jesus goes on to talk about what will be the result of our unity, of our oneness. In verse 21, he prays that all of us would be one, just as he and the Father are one. Then he goes on to say, may they also be in us, so that the world may know that you have sent me. So that the world may know that you have sent me. Wow. See, as Jesus looks ahead, the one thing that he knows is going to prove to the world that this kingdom of God movement isn't just another flash in the pan, but that it's straight from the Creator God. It's the unity of his followers. You see, Jesus knew that his followers were going to face challenges that were just way too big for them to handle on their own. I mean, Jesus knew that his followers were going to have to make some changes in their lives that they couldn't make by themselves. And Jesus knew that his followers, his church, could be and do way more together than they ever could by themselves. And so when Jesus prays on behalf of all of his followers, on behalf on you, me, his entire church, Jesus prays for one thing: unity, the same love, a shared life, that we would be one. If you're here, if you're involved in this study, then you're somehow drawn to this sort of connection with other followers of Jesus. I mean, you get a sense of why it matters. But wanting it and experiencing it, though, they're two different things. What we have to understand is that this level of community doesn't just happen by itself, but it's intentionally built and is carefully sustained. So over the next 4 sessions, we're going to use the early church as our guide, as we discuss the absolute essentials that go into forming Christ-centered community and move us towards becoming